And we are back once again. Welcome to the Winner Circle, the podcast covering jiu-jitsu, MMA, and other combat sports. I am one of your hosts, Eugene Plowden, and with me as always, my podcast partner, Isaiah Gathings. What's up, man?
What's up, man?
If this is your first time with us, I want you to know we are members of the Martial Arts Center Network. And on Mondays, you got the Winner Circle with myself, Isaiah Gathings, Chris Walker, and Angel Diaz. Tuesday, the Inside Scoop with Alex and Jeff. Wednesdays, the traditional way with Brett Shumway. Thursdays, Fists, Kicks, and Flicks with myself, Joe Hartley, and Angel Diaz. For more information, you can check us out on all of our social media platforms. Just look for the Martial Arts Center Network on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Patreon. And don't forget about the main app, the Martial Arts Center Network app.
Right,
It is showtime. What's up, man?
Right. Hey, man, it's been one of them days. Normally, I say living a dream, right? And it's been one of them days, man.
Yeah.
It's been one of them days, but I am here. There is a proverb that I try to remember and live by. I think I got it out of a fortune cookie some years ago. I don't remember.
Okay.
It says, even the longest days must come to an end. Right.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
I try to remember that whenever I'm having a challenging day. That you know what, at some point in time it's gonna end and a new day will begin. So it ain't been horrible. It's just been one of them days, but
just busy.
I'm here now, so I'm good.
There you go. There you go. How was your weekend been, man? Do you even get a weekend?
Huh?
You get a weekend? Do you even get a weekend?
I mean, I do. You know, yesterday was pretty cool. My daughter decided she wanted to go out and help folks in the homeless community. It's something that I was doing pretty much either weekly or bi-weekly. Just, me and, whomever else was interested in doing it. Started a few years back. And then as of late, just because of me opening the school and all the traveling that I've been doing this year and how busy I've been, we guys just kind of reduced it to myself and some buddies of mine doing it on the holidays. But my daughter randomly wanted to do it. She went and bought all these groceries and she asked, was I still going out? And I said, well, if you want to go, then absolutely. So she cooked all this food for about 40 or 50 people. And we went out yesterday and we was able to give. So it was good. It was a good day. And just been I got to get ready to travel to the frozen tundra, which is Detroit, in a couple of days. So I got to prepare for that. Not only like luggage wise, but I gotta mentally prepare for that, man. Like I gotta go through training to get my body ready to come back there and deal with all that nonsense y'all got going on there. So got a busy week coming up, man. That's for sure. Got some people testing for some degrees this weekend. Just a busy week that I've been preparing for sure.
Yeah, man. It's really cold here right now too, man.
That's insane, man. That should just be, that coldness should be illegal. It shouldn't even be legal to be that. Those temperatures are ridiculous, man.
Yeah.
It's 75 here. 75. The window's down. I got my arm out the window driving down the street. The sun is out. I can't understand what's happening over that way. No.
When I woke up this morning, it was 6.
He's 6. done. Not 16.
Not 16.
Not even 16. Just 6.
Just 6. It was 6, and I think the wind chill felt like -11 or -12.
This is crazy.
Something.
This is crazy.
Yeah. So
I might have to test them online. Another reason I got to go back. Now I got to go back for, unfortunately, a funeral, so I can't do that online. So it's a twofer, but this is crazy, man. This is crazy.
Yeah, man. So it's pretty cold here, and this is the problem with it too. I knew when we got that big snow right after Thanksgiving. That's early. It's normally might get a little chilly, might be a little cold, and every now and then we'll get some snow on Thanksgiving. But when you get a lot of snow around Thanksgiving, that's gonna be one of those rough winters, man. Because here it does not let up.
It's early,
and it's going to be cold at least until March. So it's just
out. That's out. That's been gone a long time ago. That March stuff you talking about?
No, man.
May now. It's been May.
Oh, I get it. I get what you're saying. Yeah, I got.
You talking about March? That's please, man. You talking about May? If by Easter is decent, then you guys are lucky. My birthday is March 29th, and we used to have my mother used to invite my friends and cousins over to have a party every year, which inevitably ended up being their party after about an hour or so, right? And we would have shorts on, t-shirt, tank top, playing basketball in the backyard every one of my birthdays. On Easter, I remember it used to be so hot with your Easter suits on that you have to take your jacket off, you'd be sweating. because it'd be 75, 80 degrees, in church. Man, it's freezing on my birthday now. It's snowing on Easter. Last year wasn't bad, and that's because my birthday, the WMAC qualifiers was on my birthday. So I was in Ohio, and it actually was nice, and I was surprised. It was like almost 70 degrees. It was nice. That's the first year that I remember it being that nice around my birthday in a very long time. But it's not getting warm until like May back that way no more, man. Like March and April's a far cry. It's still snowing in those months.
Yes, you're right about that. But then sometimes too, with April, it's going to start raining. But this is the thing though, Zeke. When it gets cold in November, and it's because it's that bitter cold. Like I said, it was 6 this morning. By the time February ends and March comes, and we're creeping up in the 50s now, that's still gonna feel a lot better than 6. Like I mean, there were times, man, where we were in the single digits and negatives for weeks at a time, and then we crept up to 20. It felt like summer, and it's only 22, and I'm zipping my coat because I'm hot. So
in all seriousness, what people don't understand though, I mean, if you're watching this, most likely you are a martial artist. Maybe not a school owner, but you are a martial artist if you're watching this. What a lot of folks don't understand, real talk, is how hard that is on a business, our business in particular. A martial art industry, it suffers substantially during these months, and people don't understand that. And it's because of a few reasons, especially back in the Midwest and the East Coast. Number one, who wants to come out in that? Right? Classes are in the evening. Daylight saving times hit, so it's getting dark at 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening. Most people's classes aren't starting until 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening. So you're going out there, now you're trying to drive through snow because you may not stay especially close. And even if you're on walking distance, when it's 6 degrees outside, it still ain't walking distance for no kid. It's dark and 6 degrees, 10 degrees outside. So the parent has to be equally as motivated as the child to take the kid to karate. These are the holiday seasons as well, because once it starts getting cold, you got that string of holidays between Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas, which are all
and New Year
holidays in which you have to spend a substantial amount of money. So now parents are prioritizing holidays and gift giving over karate. It's easy to say no to karate now because it's too cold. You know what I mean? And I already want to save money anyway. It's so hard in our business. Then when the new year hits, people are still recovering from the holidays financially. And then again, it's still cold. Even January 1st, January 2nd. It's so hard on the businesses. Our enrollment, you can't be closed when it's cold. Being cold is not an excuse to be closed. So as a business owner, you have to do what? You have to be there. You have to run your electricity. You got to run your heat. So you got the heat on 80 and 90 because it's 6 degrees outside, just to put it on 90 so it can feel like 60, 65 inside, so it feels manageable and decent. For maybe 12, 15 students to come that day, you have to pay your staff. You have to still be there, and just for whomever may or may not show up. And even the individuals that do show up, the consistency isn't even there oftentimes too. They'll come here and there, what I mean, or whatever. And it's so hard on our business. Our industry suffers so much in those places where you have those the inclement weather for sure. A lot of people don't know that, but it's brutal on your business. You wake up the next day, you don't even know if you're going to be open or not. People have to call and see if you're going to be open because you got to look outside and see how bad the snow actually is. You can't pre-close, because then it might not be that bad at all. You know what I mean? And I've done that before. Oh, I heard we're getting a bad snowstorm, so we're closed tomorrow. Wake up and they do nothing but dust. It's this dust there. All the roads are clear. Everybody's shooting up and down the street. Everything's fine. They're like, why are we closed? But then you wait till the next day, you look up, you plan to be open. It's 2 feet of snow outside, freezing, the roads are bad. It's just so much is even out of your control about running your business because it's based on the weather.
So for the last 2 weeks too, we had some snowstorms here. 2 weeks ago, we had it on a Wednesday. And we weren't supposed to. It wasn't supposed to accumulate. We were just supposed to get flurries. So I didn't even worry about it. I didn't cancel class or anything. By the time I left the house to go to the academy, it's coming down, and I'm like, oh, I don't think nobody's gonna come because It's like 5:15, 5:30. Like that's prime time. Class starts at 6. So I'm on my way up to the school. And I'm thinking I'm driving in it, and it's like getting close to like whiteout condition. And I'm like, oh, people aren't coming in here tonight. So, but I was surprised. Most of my parents did show up. I had one parent text me say, "I'm not going to make it," because it was real icy too. So it's not only it's snowing, but this stuff is sticking on the ground and it's slick and it's rush hour time. So, like you said, man, people don't want to come out already. Now, I apologize when they came. I was like, you know what? I did not expect for this to come because normally what I do is since 2020. When I know it's going to be a bad snowstorm, I'm canceling class. I'm like, we on Zoom. Just hop. We got our own Zoom room. Just hop in the Zoom room. We're going to have class. And when we have class on Zoom, I just do combinations. That's it.
Right.
We do our warm up. We do some combinations. When I look up, it's none. And not only that, when I do that, I got all the kids in one group. I used to separate the white belts from the gold and purple belts and all of that. Not no more. Because what I found myself doing was repeating the exact same class. So now I just tell everybody be on at 6 o'clock. We're gonna have class from Zoom. I'll do one class, and I'll make it so everybody can do all the techniques. I'm not doing anything. I'm not having the advanced kids do something that the beginners don't know. So reverse punch, front snap kick, reverse punch, roundhouse kick, double roundhouse, low high roundhouse kick, whatever, backwards reverse punch, just simple stuff. What I found though, when I started talking with my red and black belt classes, they have been doing Zoom for so long. They finally admitted to me that they hate doing the classes on Zoom. I was like, what? Okay, cool. I found that I had an extra day in my schedule. So I said, you know what I'll do from now on then, we'll just have a makeup day, come to the makeup class. Not many people were showing up for the makeup classes. So I'm like,
I don't want to do this, but then I don't like the alternative either. So I know what I don't like, but I'm not about to make any additional effort.
The makeup class
trying to resolve the situation.
The makeup class is on Fridays at 6 o'clock. So that's what I do. So this week that just passed, that we just had, we had another snowstorm. So we had one 2 weeks ago, then we had one on Wednesday. And Wednesday, we knew it was coming in advance. So I text all the parents, let them know, like, hey, no class tonight. We'll have a makeup class on the 19th. They were like, cool, fine. And then the same thing with Thursday class. But another thing that you forgot about, maybe you haven't had to do this, but at my school, I got to get up. If it snows on Tuesday night into Wednesday, I have to go up to the school Wednesday afternoon and shovel and salt to make sure nobody slips and falls on some damn ice, coming into the school too. So that's another step that you got to do.
Yep.
So
it's a lot that people don't understand. And again, it's so much dependent on the weather and so much out of your control. Like you don't have to wonder if you're going to open or not in summer or spring months. We're going to be closed because it's too hot or because it rained. We're going to close. Those are things that don't happen. It's like, okay, it's rain. Like, what I mean? Even if it's a rainstorm, it's like, I don't think nobody going to come, but it's nothing really stopping or impeding me or my ability from being able to come. And people are much more prone to drive in the rain, even if it's pouring, then they probably won't come, but they're more inclined than they would be to combat against sub-freezing temperatures, what I mean? Black ice, snow embankments that's been pushed to the side from the city that you're trying to fight through, and then it's dark, like whatever time your class starts, it's dark. Yep. Because all classes start after 4 o'clock. Doesn't matter what school you go to, the early class is going to be 4:30, unless you have an early afternoon or morning class. Typically, the first class of that day is going to be around 4:30 to accommodate kids who's getting out of school. It's getting dark at that time. So by the time the class either starts or ends, even the earliest class, it's going to be dark. Parents, they don't want to deal with that. It's just everything is different. It changes. And a lot of it's depending upon the weather for sure. And as a business owner, it embarrasses you and makes you look unprofessional all the time because there's things you can't account for. Well, you know what? Ain't nobody going to show up. So I'm not even going to go. Then you hear about it was 10, 15 parents that showed up and braved through it, and you didn't even go. You couldn't reach everybody because you didn't know until the last minute you were going to cancel. You have no way of knowing if they're going to come or not because they don't check in with you ahead of time and say, I will or I won't be there. They pay their tuition. It's open for them to come. This is their day. This is their class. they can choose to come or not come. So you will lose students even because you will start making moves, canceling when you should have stayed open, and some parents who are going to come, then they didn't know you canceled. They came anyway, or not canceling, and people don't understand why you didn't, or just because parents don't want to drive out in it. Enrollment goes down for sure around this time, and a lot of it's dependent on the weather for sure. So it's so much out of your control, and a lot of people just don't even consider that. But it was always a very, very rough time for me and for my business. And in stepping away and wanting to look to relocate and open somewhere else, that was something that I considered as well, which is why surprising I reopened up in Michigan, because we're back in the situation now and we're having these issues again. So, what do you do?
When you have classes, are you having the exact same classes every single day, or are you just open 3 days, 4 days a week?
I'm open 6 days a week. So we have Monday and Wednesday have the same classes on there, and Tuesday and Thursday have the same classes on there. And then Friday is the day that we spar, and we have a Little Warriors class on that day. Then Saturday we have a Little Warriors day, and we have a weapons class. And reason why is that for whatever reason or another, parents seem to like the weekends for the babies. You know what I mean? That's they like, for the little kids, they like the weekend classes.
That was not my case.
Yeah,
but that's good that you have that. They did not like that. I used to have that, and I got rid of it because I had people who were calling beginners, and they were upset that and it's not like I was having class at 9 o'clock in the morning for these kids. It was at 11:30. I had parents saying, like, I got to get up, and I'm like, yeah, you got to get up. Your kid is probably up anyway.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, we have Little Warrior classes on Mondays and Wednesdays too. So we have them 4 days a week. You can come in Monday and Wednesday, or we have a Friday and Saturday, or you can mix them up however you want to get 2 days out of the week. So even if they don't like the weekends, they do have week options throughout the week. And then for the most part, again, I do have the same classes, to answer your question, for 4 days, Monday through Thursday. But we tell you to choose alternating days. Gotcha. So you will choose Monday and Wednesday. The times are different. It's the same classes, but they're different times. So the Monday and Wednesday classes, those 4 classes that we teach, are half an hour early, 15 to 20 minutes earlier than they are on Tuesday and Thursday. Tuesday and Thursday, we offer the same 4 classes, but they're 15 to 20 minutes later. So it gives a parent an opportunity to say, oh, that's too early for me. Oh, this works perfect. Or, you know what? I wanted my kid to come right after school. I didn't want to have to go home and then drive right back out, 30 minutes later. So we can just leave right from school, go right up there. They can knock out the karate. That way we can get home. They can do their homework, and they can eat dinner and go from there. So just try to stagger the times a little bit.
I think the way, because my uncle, I don't know how they're doing it now. I don't know their schedule, but at one point in time, we had classes 6 days a week, but Monday through Thursday, we had, so Monday and Wednesday, I believe, like the white belt class might have been from 5:15 to 6 o'clock, and then the gold and purple belts, I believe they were at 6 to 6:45. But on Tuesday and Thursdays, he would have the gold and purple belt class at 5:15 to 6 o'clock, and the white belt class at 6 o'clock to 6:45. So he would flip those 2 classes to make it a little bit easier for people. I thought about that, but I don't know if I have. I mean, at that time, like, it was so many of us around who could help pick up the slack in doing the teaching. So it kind of worked out. And then, of course, Fridays were sparring, and then Saturday was we had 2 or 3 classes. We had a white belt class, and then we had a gold belt and up class, so anybody could come, and then was sparring after that. But if I do go back to having a weekend Friday and Saturday classes, which I would like, I want to just make those specialty days, and hopefully people like to come. Like you said, weapons are on that day. If Steve wants to do jiu-jitsu, but he's training also on Saturday, so I don't know. Maybe Friday might, put some type of specialty class. If Joe want to come and start having his weapons class, his bow class, or breaking on those days, I think that's what I want to save those days for. Or even demo class or tournament prep classes. Those would be good for those days and times. So
I outlined things really well in my first location that I had. this is going to be a little bit more challenging this time because we were very competition heavy.
Mm-hmm.
So I refused to put core classes on Saturdays because I would
Mm-hmm.
cancel them oftentimes for tournaments because the majority of the school, at least all of the instructor staff and the main core members were going to tournaments competing regularly. So we made those what we called black belt club days. And the way that I had structured it was if I canceled 3 Saturdays out of a month, people wasn't really tripping because it was days that we offer additional training that was not a core curriculum class. So there was weapons on that day, there was Thai boxing on that day, there was jiu-jitsu on that day. There were extra classes for the people who actually were enrolled in that particular program. You can have 3 classes a month. You may ever have 1 class a month. Maybe 1 month there was no Saturday classes at all. It was all revolving around the tournament schedule. The only thing that I dislike, and we talked about this briefly in the staff meeting today, is that we have a couple tournaments that we're going to start doing this year because I have some students that's ready, about that rank and about ready to go. The majority of those, the staff members are probably going to either be going and competing as well. So we just have to figure out how to juggle that because we do have core classes on that day. Some students that only come on that day, and you can't start canceling those classes for that reason. So, just be careful with the decision that you make and consider that, especially with you having a staff of 1 or 2 individuals, that's something that you're going to have to consider for sure.
Yeah. All right, man. Let's talk about the first topic tonight. So I have this is going to be interesting. Is online training a fad or the future of martial arts? So I see a lot of academies now, especially the well-known ones. They have their multiple academies and their affiliations, but they also offer online training also. Now, some schools you can get ranked through online training, and I'm just not talking about jiu-jitsu schools. Karate schools also some offer this also. But you also have well they'll have a class, they'll record the class, and then they'll post it, and the person at home can participate in the class on their home on their own and just go through the class themselves. Then you have some people who are taking classes, and the classes are pre-recorded instructionals, and they're selling. But with those instructionals, I'm not sure if they're getting ranked through those or not. I know maybe back in the day you might have got ranked. At least I know I think the Gracies used to do that with their combatives. You used to get a blue belt after you went through their thing. But do you think that's going to be the future, especially now? You have AI. I saw a guy. It was Eddie Bravo. Matter of fact, Eddie Bravo was teaching a class, and I'm looking at the video, and the video looked a little funny. It looked a little weird. As I'm looking at it, I'm like, wait, why does this video look like this? And then as I'm watching the video, it kind of pulls back, and it showed that I was looking at it through a VR headset, and the guy was walking around, and it looked like I was there. And I guess this was a new technology that they were trying to develop, or they have developed, or they're trying to get the bugs out of it. And that made me wonder. I wonder if that is going to be the future, where you get you an Oculus or something like that and put it on, and next you know, because those things feel real. But I mean, maybe for karate it might work okay, but I don't know if I would ever test someone that way. Sending me a video. I think I need to see that person in person, because I need to be able to, keep their hands up or make sure their hands are in the right spot. Maybe I need to look at their feet, make sure they're pivoting when they're doing their reverse punches or how their stances or whatever. I don't know as of right now how I feel about that. Maybe in the future, as we go 5-10 years from now, maybe it might improve and it might actually feel like, as an instructor, I'm there with the student. But what do you think, man? Do you think that online training is it a fad, just something right now, or this is something that's going to be around?
The world flipped upside down with COVID, man. And I think that because we made it through it, that we don't really understand. Like it's one of those things where people say you don't know you in the good times, the good old days, why you in them. And then you look up and then you be like, man, like that was, we really, had a great time back then. Those were the good old days. I didn't know it when I was in it. I think that right now we just kind of, we processed everything. Some people lost people, some people lost businesses. I mean, we were resilient as individuals. So we just kind of pushing and we moving forward. And we might not realize how significant this is, that we joke about it now, but it is the truth. There was a pre-COVID, you know what I mean? And there is a post-COVID. I mean, and we know that because a lot of people didn't make it to the other side. And I don't think that we will really understand the gravity of the fact that the world has forever changed until maybe, you know, I don't know, 20, 30, 40 years from now. And we'll look back and we'll be like, man, like we lived that. We remember that, you know. And I think that with it changing, like if this is a question you would have asked me in 2019, I would probably say that she was crazy. But now we classically talk about people that don't want to go to work anymore. They want to work from home. You know what I mean? And it's hard to be able to get people to go in the office and to workplaces now. It changed the way that that people work, or they think about work. It's changed the way that people view a lot of things. I began my Zoom classes, you know, as a result of COVID, and a lot of other individuals did, and I stuck with it past that. So on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I work with my black belt group and my advanced group. You know, thank God now that we have the academy. Before they were in their living rooms and their bedrooms and basements doing it. They're at the academy now, so they go and show up like they're actually having an actual class with me present, and then they set their laptop up front, and then I teach class. Eventually, I'm going to get a giant TV up there so they can look at the TV and I can see them where it's programmed, and I'll literally be teaching class like that. And then when I come in town, like I'll be this week, then obviously I'm there in person, and then I work with them in person. There was a lot of people that during COVID, you know, if you were new to martial arts or if you were newer, it didn't bother you so much. But there are people like your red belts and black belts where they wasn't really feeling it because they understood how much of a difference there was with the one-on-one personal interaction. I think that it's made me a better instructor because I have to be more focused and attentive. You do Zoom classes with your students occasionally, so you know what I mean. I have to be able to really look and lock in. I'm not right in front of you anymore, so I got to look at your stances a little bit more critically and see, is that, look, turn this way. Let me see, is that revert? Is that ready arm chambered the way it's supposed to be? Is that elbow back? Is that fist turned over like it's supposed to be? I'm a lot more attentive because I have to be, because I'm looking at it through a lens and seeing you not right there in person. With that said, I think that now that things have went back to quote unquote normal, like before everybody was on that train, that bandwagon. But once schools start opening back up and people started really getting that interaction, that's when my class narrowed down and people were like, yeah, you know what? It was cool and it was understandable during that time. But really, I'd prefer some actual physical interaction. And then again, when you get up higher, you already know that their sparring is a part of the activity as well. And if you've been training for a while and you've sprawled before, you know there's no real way I'm going to be able to get to another level of sparring. If you're newer, you've never sprawled before, you don't have that experience to compare it to. So for you, you're like, okay, yeah, I can get from white to black belt, you know what I'm saying, and never get punched or kicked in the face. I mean, I think I'm supposed to sprawl, but people who's actually been coming down there, they've been banging, if you're grappling, if you've been rolling, if you've been grappling, if people been moving you and grown men laying on top of you with their weight, is much, you understand that experience cannot be replicated just by being able to watch things online. So I don't really think that it's going to be the future. I think that for casual people who maybe have a difficult time etching out time for this, I think that maybe it will be. But overall, I don't. Consider like the Peloton thing. That's something great. You know, that was taking the world by storm. And I'm not saying that it's not still famous and popular now, where you have this person that's right here on your screen and they're pushing you to ride your bike harder, and you're riding through forest and mountains and the Appalachian Mountains and up and down, you know, hills and trails and things like that. People loved it when they couldn't get out, when they couldn't get to those places. But now there's nothing like being in a spin class where there's all of this energy of the actual instructors. They're there and you're surrounded by 15 people that's sweating and you're pushing yourself, or actually bike riding groups. People are trying to get back to interacting with people. So you will definitely have individuals who will take advantage of this, and it'll be the wave from an accessibility standpoint for people who are either casuals or people who actually do train but may not be able to make it, so this can be something to supplement. I missed the class. So you know what? I'm gonna go and I got a subscription with this or with that or whatever, and I'm gonna check out some moves. People who want to get some get an edge, they want to get some extra, a little bit outside of what they're getting in class. I can learn these moves and I can try them when I get there and I'm rolling or I'm sparring or whatever. But to actually replace to where I feel like it's going to be a wave to where it'll be replacing the actual physical in-person experience, I don't really see that happening.
No, I don't really see it happening either. But you did say something that was a little interesting. You said that you run that class for your black belts, right? Mm-hmm. You don't do it for white belts, right? Mm-mm. See, that's the difference. I think it'll be a lot easier to run a class via Zoom for my black belts or red belts, especially if they're at the academy and they're not separated at home. I definitely think that is something. I mean, I think that might work, especially for people who let's say you could do a jiu-jitsu class that way.
No, absolutely.
From your point of view, you know what I'm saying? Doing
absolutely.
It that way. Like you can do a jiu-jitsu class that way. It'll be harder to do that jiu-jitsu class if those people are at home by themselves.
Oh, yeah. No. Yeah. That is a good point.
Because most people are not going to be able to go to an academy and do that online class with you. So that is good that you offer that. That's a different thing. Which is interesting.
If you're able to offer that, and that can open up things. I mean, even for seminars, you know, I can't pay Gordon Ryan $3,000 to come to my academy, but if he had his academy and we have a gigantic screen set up, and I can get 50 people to be able to go to an academy, and then he can run the seminar. All he needs is one of his black belts or instructors to be a Yuki, you know what I mean? And he can sit there and show you. If somebody's got a camera, they can get in there. They can show where those grips are at, how those are supposed to go. He can look and see everybody that's rolling. You know, he can call people out in different groups. Hey, you guys here at group one. You guys right here. He's not securing their arm properly to get that sweep. Make sure you use that butterfly properly. Hey, over here. It's not the same, but it still can give a closer, you know, like a much more realistic type of view. Like you can make it happen. You can rock it out and make it happen, and it don't seem too weird. You know what I mean? If that's the academy, but like you said, like at home and stuff like that, it's tougher. And by the way, during COVID, I did have white belts. I did have yellow belt. I had pretty much all different ranks at some point in time. But the kids, it's harder to keep them focused. You know what I mean? They're at home. You know what I mean?
Especially the little ones.
You know, they cat walking by while they're in class, and you know what I'm saying? Is you know the refrigerator over there with the juice box that they thinking about, you know, in between. They trying to sit on the couch in between. And it's like, hey man, you know, you in class. They're like, am I really? Like when I cut this laptop off, I will be at home, bro. You know what I mean? Right. I am not in class. Right. I am at home. You know, I'm at home playing karate.
The worst part was teaching forms from home. I gave up on that. I tried it during COVID. I tried it the first couple weeks, and then I said, "That's it. I'm cutting out forms. Ain't no way I'm doing that. Ain't no way I'm teaching forms.
Cutting out forms.
Done.
Oh, Jeff, man, no.
I was like, I'm not about to stress myself out.
Make sure you get. We're gonna Jeff jump in the group. You know what I mean? Remember, he said he cut forms out for a brief period of time. What's happening with this guy?
You know what messed up too? What happened? What ended up happening is the students got behind in forms. So
of course they did.
But once I got them back in front of me, I had to just start teaching them form after form. All right, you got that one? All right, cool. We about to do the next one now. And I had to get them caught back up to where they were supposed to be.
But you got to be careful with that too, from an instructor standpoint. And you ain't got to say that you did. And I got some people that's listening that's instructors too. We know, because you know, and unless we certain folks who actually practice like we supposed to all the time, we know that if we're not teaching them forms, a lot of us, we ain't practicing them like we supposed to. Especially the ones that's a little bit intermediate, the higher up level. You better mess around, start forgetting some of them steps yourself. You know what I mean? Because especially like, for instance, I have a group. We reopened my academy up. I obviously have all white belts. Like right now, my highest class is the yellow belt class, right? Because these are the white belts that started back in June. that just graduated to their yellow belts, a couple months ago, a month or two ago. So, if you're not, thank God I have my black belts that I'm still working with. I have like a blue belt adult. I have a couple people, and we run through all of the forms. But if I didn't have that group, but by the time that those yellow belts get up to blue belt, or red belt, if I'm not practicing those forms and running through them, I might mess around and forget a couple of those steps and movements myself, because you're used to being able to work on the beginner forms, because that's typically the group of individuals that you have continuously coming in. So I'm bringing that up to say, when you said you cut it off for a brief period of time, it's like that's got to be tough for you too, because if you're not running through those forms and they getting behind, you got to make sure that you stand on top of it as well, that you're not forgetting or mixing things up on your end as well.
So I didn't forget for two reasons. Number one, three reasons. Number one, the way my uncle did forms, he drilled them into our heads, which is crazy because my uncle is not a forms guy.
Nope,
right?
Nope, that's interesting.
But the way he taught us, I mean, we would have to do, so we didn't have names for our forms. It was just base form 1, base form 2, 3, 4, 5. So we went from base form number 1 up to base form number 10, and then we had advanced forms number 1 and advanced form number 2, right? We had to do the forms and not mess up. So when we were red belts or black belts and we were practicing our forms, we would do, he would say, okay, we're going to start with base form number 1. Every time y'all mess up, y'all going to have to do 5 push-ups. And I'm going to double it every time. So we do base form number 1. We do, all right, y'all did 1. Then we did 2. Then we did 3. We got to base form number 7. Somebody would mess up. We had to knock the push-ups out, get back up, start all over from 1 again. Yep. We didn't even start from 7 again. We had to start from 1, work our way back up. Somebody fuck up again when we get to 7. Same person.
It's gonna be the same person. It's gonna be the same person because if they ain't gonna remember it between now and the time you get back to basic form number 7.
All I will say is me, Travis, and Ski, when we got back into the locker room and some other friends, we helped him remember. That's all I'm saying. We helped him. We gave him we helped him remember. So that's number 1. Number 2, I have been consistently teaching martial arts since '91, and it's been the same thing. The curriculum hasn't changed. So those forms, once again, are still stuck in my head. The third reason is because we recorded the Plowden curriculum. So I have it on video. So if anything I forget or if
I do now,
anything, I can just jump on that.
Yeah, I do now.
So those 3 reasons. But this is, man, I mean, forms became hell for me, man. Especially when I first started the school. The recent school, and it was being by myself with 20 kids, and I'm teaching basic form number 1, and the kids' ages range from a 4-year-old in that class to a 9 or 10-year-old in that class. So we go to basic form number 1, turn left, turn low block, step and punch. Then you got to fix some kids because they messed up. Make sure that front leg is bent, back leg straight, shoulder straight. Look down here, you see a kid that has the wrong leg front. You go switch him, put his arm up. This other kid is doing a block instead of a punch now. And then you go back and you see the first kid that you fix is messed up again. Man, I spent the whole class, the first 45 minutes, just doing the first 4 moves.
It's like a tent. It's like a tent. It's like this tent falling over here. You run over here, you try to put this up here, and then that side of the tent fall, and you try to go put that one up. Then this side of the tent fall. Yeah, it's so challenging.
So what I ended up doing was taking basic form number 1 out of the white belt classes because I was like, you know what? I'm not going to spend all this time doing this. And some of you kids that are here on trial might not even stay long. You might not even stay the whole time. So if I'm going to dedicate this amount of time, I'm going to put basic form number 1 with my gold belts anyway. And that's what I ended up doing. Now, when it came to doing it in Zoom, man, it was just hell because I could not physically, pull that knee out further.
Well, here's the bigger problem. Here's the bigger problem. Most people, kids especially, but even adults, they don't understand the fact that, like, you can tell them left to right, but if you're facing them, what you have to do to see them do the form, you'd either have to do the form wrong in the wrong direction because they're going to try to mirror what you're doing. So you can tell them, we're starting to the left. Okay, so I'm going to go this way, but you have to go this way. They're gonna mess it up. So you gotta turn your back to them and you have to do the move in the same direction as them. but then they're missing all the action because everything they need to see is in the front.
And think about the turn.
Away from them, they miss the frontal action. Then you got to turn back towards them and show them, but you're showing them in the wrong direction. It's the right direction, but for them, they're going to look at it and they're going to go in the incorrect direction. It can be challenging for sure. Yeah,
definitely. So, but with jiu-jitsu, once again, because when I started with Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, I had signed on to Gracie University, and with them it was like $20, and you pay $20 every month, and then this is the curriculum from white belt to get your combatives belt. So it's 70-something techniques that you have to learn. But this is the problem. If you're not doing it with a friend or a partner, if you're doing it with a dummy, that is not easy at all. So I got frustrated doing it because I'm doing the moves. I'm like, but this dummy's not giving me any resistance or anything like that. I don't know if I'm doing these moves right. That's why I ended up finding the school. And I said, Kego Harbor, fine, I'll drive out there. I can make it work. And it was a better experience going to the academy than it was doing it online. Now, I guess for some people who live in rural communities or you're in a small town and don't have jiu-jitsu anywhere near you, I get it. I understand it. But then when I listen to some people and I see how they sacrifice driving an hour or 2 hour or 4 hours, to get to the academy, then you really don't have any excuses when other people are putting in that type of work.
Jiu-jitsu is truly a what-if kind of art. What makes it great and so addictive, and especially if you're a traditional martial artist first, and I've talked about this before, and you take up jiu-jitsu, you fall in love with it even more so because you don't get the traditional response that you get in traditional martial arts when you ask a question. You raise your hand, you ask a question. Well, what if, they teach you this punch or this kick or this block? Well, what if the person does this, and they look at you almost offended. When you get to a certain level, you'll understand that that'll be or advanced question for a different time. But for now, you have to focus on this, And it's like you never get an answer. You know what I mean? They because what they're teaching you is supposed to be so perfect, so lethal, so deadly that there's no possible way that this isn't going to work. A person, by the way, who's probably never realistically used this move in a real situation, and if they have, they didn't use it to garner the results that they're telling you can come of it. You can kill somebody, you can break somebody arm, but did you kill somebody with it? Did you? Jiu-jitsu is not like that. Jiu-jitsu is like literally ask a question. Well, what if the guy puts his weight backwards? What if the guy has his weight forward? What if he stands his leg up? What if he does this? What if he does that? Right? And they have answers for it, and they can give you real answers or call you up and actually do the move at the live speed, half speed, or whatever else, and nobody gets seriously hurt. Unlike karate, like I can't vertical punch or reverse punch you straight in the nose. You know what I mean? It's to see what's going to happen, right? You can actually use the move and apply it. And they encourage questions, and you typically get the question that you asked answered, in jiu-jitsu. With that said, those are things that I can't do with the dummy. I'm not going to have no questions because the dummy is not going to be able to provide any type of experience other than it just being an inanimate object. Right? You will work with somebody and they may not be trying to give you resistance in jiu-jitsu, but they may be heavier than you. They may be lighter than you. They may naturally respond a certain type of way, putting their arm somewhere, standing a leg up, sitting their weight back, standing up. And they're not trying to really be difficult, but they're just not that docile because they're human. So they actually are going to respond in some way to what you're doing, which will prompt the person to raise their hand and ask a question. And that is good, healthy, and encouraged. That's an impossible experience to replicate with the dummy watching things online. It's impossible to be able to do it. So there's a lot of pros that come from it, but I just think that those are going to be things that are either for casual people who cannot carve out the time, or the places are too far away, which that's not going to be that big of an excuse anymore because these things are popping up everywhere. You know what I mean? Even in rural areas. People who can't carve out time, people who are looking to get an edge, they're trying to get a one-up on the class and learn techniques that are not being taught so they can have, a little bit of an advantage and advance at a little bit faster pace, or just people who are trying to use these things for refreshers. Maybe I was injured and I can't really go to the academy and work the way that I want, so I'm going to train my brain and feed myself with this knowledge. Maybe I missed class. Maybe I'm on vacation. Maybe I've been out of town. Maybe I got to go to a conference and I want to watch this stuff and I want to stay up on it, it'll be a very good supplementary thing for the actual training. But I don't really think it's going to be a wave where it's going to change things too much, because there's still too many people, especially after that break that we have from humans. There's too many people that want to get back to actually interacting with people, in person. So I don't think it's going to be threatening to that extent.
Mm-hmm. Let's move on to our next question, man. So, why are so many jiu-jitsu practitioners so opinionated about other gyms and other academies? I don't get that. And you and I come from a unique situation because we were karate guys first before we became jiu-jitsu practitioners. And out of all the people that my uncle introduced me to, people that I met at tournaments, I never cared about someone else's martial arts school, their academy. If you're a black belt, you were a black belt. I never, it didn't matter to me how long it took you to get your black belt, or the type of training that you went through, or who your instructor was, or anything. But in the jiu-jitsu, it seems like so many people care all the time. Like I was telling you in the pre-show that we did, I saw that it was a group on Facebook, and someone had, people will post, when they're happy, they'll get a stripe on their belt. And, someone would ask, like, how long did it take you to get your first stripe or your second stripe? And they might say 8 months or 6 months or whatever. And then next thing you know, all these negative comments come up, and people are just so passionate. And then this person that was happy, probably, are upset now because now they're in an argument online trying to defend their school or defend the fact that they got this stripe.
You crushed my heart, man. I was happy I got that stripe, bro. You didn't crush my spirit, man.
Right.
I don't even want it now.
Yeah. So I don't get it, man. Why do people just, why are jiu-jitsu practitioners just so, it's almost like they're gatekeepers, and everybody wants everybody to go through the same thing that they went through, and I don't get it. What do you think?
The answer actually isn't that complex as you think. It's actually very simple. It's because it's a newer art. It was introduced as a newer art to us in our generation and lifetime, and we can't say that about any of the other arts that we practice or we train. Everything else is, from what we understand, to be at least 100. Maybe hundreds, even thousands, of years old. We have some arts that, we remember it when Taekwondo became an Olympic sport, and when some of those things were introduced, it still wasn't in our lifetime, but it still was relatively newer, I mean? Like when some of these things were introduced or some of these events happened. So it might be removed from our lifetime, or maybe we were too young to understand this, or maybe our grandparents were around during this time or whatever else. But for the most part, most martial arts systems are hundreds of years, decades, hundreds of years, or even thousands of years old from what we understand. That's from what we understand. These things have been passed down, and it wasn't in our lifetime. Maybe our grandparents, maybe not. Jiu-jitsu, we know exactly when this came over to America. And we understand how it was actually, you can trace it back a lot easier because it was established relatively, new. I mean, we're talking about this being here, we're talking about 30 years, maybe it's been 35 years. I'm not saying it's jiu-jitsu's new. I'm talking about Brazilian jiu-jitsu. That's what I think you're alluding to.
So Royce, that was 93 when Royce won the first UFC. But Horian started teaching in about 79 or 80. Yeah, in America. He was the first one.
He had some isolated students back in the 80s. I get that. Right. Yeah. They would come over and they would work with people. So they did have people in America that they taught. But from a widespread perspective, those people didn't have academies. They were working directly with the Gracies when they were coming back and forth over, for the most part, or the Machados or whomever they were working with in that family. A lot of them did not have academies, and they were not producing. They
were teaching out their garages.
Exactly. So with that said, we understand and we can pinpoint back. We're talking about 30, 35 years. We can go back even to the 80s, you know what I mean, or the late 70s. You're still talking about 40 40, 45 years. You know what I mean? That means in your lifetime, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, not Jiu-Jitsu, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was introduced to America for the most part for widespread consumption in your lifetime. It's not hard to be able to say, well, who taught you? Because they know these are individuals that came over. These individuals, like the Bible, he begot this person. That person begot that person. This person begat. That's why you're able to go into academies and look at the showmen, and you're actually able to see the lineage that comes from, Carlos and all the rest of these people, and even some people you may know. You know what I mean? You're like, yeah, I know this dude. I trained with this guy before. Like, it's that young. So I know if you on some bull, and I can tell if you lying, because it's super easy to trace back. Reason people love talking to your uncle is because him and Curtis Butler, who I believe got his black belt before your uncle, you know what I mean? They trained with actual Koreans. They were like the last people in Michigan that trained with the actual Korean people. Now, they might not be the ones who created the art, but they were like first generation students of the people who created the actual art. They were first generation students or second generation students. So it's an impressive story. We want to sit around their feet and hear it, because by the time it's got to us, that stuff's been broken down, you know what I'm saying? Like a 1,000 different ways, 1,000 different people, who you get your stuff from? I got my stuff from Sam. Well, who Sam get his stuff from? I don't know. He got it from Tyrone. Who Tyrone gets the Mitch, Michael, Pete. And it's just like, who is all these people? You know what I mean? And you can sit there all day and you can try to trace it back, but you ain't gonna do nothing but pull your hair out, because it's the win. And somebody probably got their black belt from somebody that really wasn't even legitimately a black belt to begin with. Somebody that just decided they wanted to say that they was, self-promote themselves to a certain level or whatever else. And again, it's an exercise in futility when it comes to karate. So people don't do it because we understand there's a lot of individuals who put themselves, talk themselves, or pay their way into situations, or the people that they got their black belt from, when we don't know if these people were credible to begin with. It's an exercise of futility, and we don't waste our time. In jiu-jitsu, though, they're trying to preserve the lineage, something that the Japanese and Koreans failed to do. Back in the day, they did a really good job of it. You couldn't promote even at your academy, like the Brazilians were doing for a while, past a certain level. They'll let you give out, you can put stripes on a white belt all day, maybe even give out a gold belt. But once you start getting them intermediate belts, you had to fly them Koreans and them Japanese people over, and you had to put money in their hand for them to come and test you and evaluate your students. And it was when they allowed that control to get away from them that we like, you know what, we don't need you guys anymore. Y'all can stand Korea and Japan. Thank you so much. We appreciate it, but we got this from here. And then they lost their foothold. You know what I mean? So then there was a wave where people like, y'all ain't learning traditional taekwondo or karate or whatever. And then they had people going from America flying over to Japan, flying over to Korea so they can get the real Kyokushin training and things like that. And then that phased out. People like, look, man, as long as I got the banner up and I say that I teach this, Sharingan rule, Shotokan, whatever, nobody's going to ask me any questions, print the certificate out, put it up here, call it a day, right? Nobody's asking any questions like you just said. Nobody cares. But for jiu-jitsu to preserve the integrity of it, the lineage is really easy to be able to date back, given how relatively new it is to us in America. I should be able to ask you some questions, and you should have some recognizable names. And if I don't recognize who you got your black belt from, that's okay. But what organization? Who did he get his black belt from? Because remember, when I started training back in 2003, I told you, Harvey Berman was the only black belt in Michigan, and I don't even know if he had his black belt yet, period. You knew it was either Kaiki that was coming into Michigan, or it was one of the Machados, or it was Zanji and Salu that was coming up from Ohio back in the day. But it was really easy. It was 2 or 3 brothers that's coming in here that's black belts, and everything's going to fall up underneath this umbrella. And eventually started sorting out a little bit more. But still, when you put up to a school, it probably says at the top, this is a Gracie whatever, and not just Gracie, Carlos, this kind of Gracie, like it's very specific, because we want to make sure you understand what lineage and line this is coming from. So it's not, believe it or not, I get it because of how new it is, as far as its inception and introduction to us, we've seen this thing introduced in our lifetime. We are young enough to know that. So people, it's a valid question to ask. I'm not mad at people for asking it. I don't think that we should be combative because, oh man, that's bullcrap what they're doing over there. Now that's stupid to me. That don't make no sense, right? But you should be able to ask. And there's a situation that happened where some people got really upset, and it's somebody that's supposed to be a relative of mine. You know what I mean? They have the same last name. They stay in a different state. I get into that on a different show. But I got a phone call at my academy one time, and this is a person I don't know. So we got the same last name, and we're related through my brother. This is his people. And somebody called me at my academy, and it was like, "Do you know such and such?" And I had just been introduced to him through Facebook. He reached out to me and was telling me, you know, I own a martial arts school here, and this and that, or whatever. So I had happened to speak to him online, but these people said, this is brother running around here talking about his 6th degree black belt. He in the military, he's 6th degree black belt. And they was talking about tuning this brother up. They said, we don't play that. Number one, he talking about he in the military.
6th degree in karate or jiu-jitsu?
No, jiu-jitsu. And this was years ago. This was years ago. This was like in 2007. So that's impossible.
Yeah.
2010. It would have been impossible to be a 6th degree black belt in 2010, 2007, 2010.
Don't you get a stripe when you're a black belt every 3 years?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's crazy.
Yeah. Okay. And he was saying he was in the military too. So they were hot. They had people that was like they were like, you need to find this guy got your last name and this and that and that. And he talking about he had Navy SEAL, and we went through the records because you can look up through because they was in the military. We can look through the records and see who was actual Navy, and then he not. And then we do martial arts jiu-jitsu, and he talking about I'm a 2nd degree or 3rd degree. He talking about he's false, he's misrepresented. And I was like, whoa. Like they was talking about when we see him, it's on site. Like they weren't talking about just beating him up. Like it was apparently it was a group of people looking for this dude. And that's when I knew how serious this lineage business is to these people and how seriously they take it. You know what I mean? So no, this is the reason why I believe.
At 6 degrees, like he would have been part of the Dirty Dozen. Like he would have been one of the first. I mean, he would have had to have gotten his. If you're talking about this happened in 2010, then that means that he would have had gotten his black belt sometimes in 1990, around that time.
Black belt around the time the UFC was first introduced to us. So around the time that jiu-jitsu was first introduced to us, he would have had just been receiving his black belt.
Now there are some people, you know, those first group of people that Horian wasn't the first person to start giving out black belts. That wasn't him. That was Hickson, and that was Higan Machado. I don't know about if Jean Jacques was doing that or not at that time. I don't know if he was, but I know that Higan was, and Hickson. They were the first ones that started, but they were giving out belts for people that have been training with them for over 10 years at that point in time. Around that time, because I looked at a documentary of the Dirty Dozen, the first 12 people to get their black belts, and which is also another messed up situation, man. Because Horian definitely should have given some of them guys black belts who were around with him at the beginning, and he did not give them black belts. That's crazy. That's a different.
It's a different time, man. I wasn't a part of the Dirty Dozen, but I was a part of being done dirty. You know what I'm saying? I'll tell you that. For real, because I'm telling you, man, between me and Matisse and Tyrone, their stories are way worse than mine.
I believe it.
Way worse.
I believe it.
I'm like, my goodness. So yeah.
All right. Let's go into the professor's perspective. You ready, man?
I am ready.
Here we go.
So for those who've been following along, we're wrapping up the year. So I'm basically going back through some of the moves that we've been talking about. If you've been following along, you've seen some of these moves that I'm going to be showing in this video. It's basically combining two moves. I'm combining the Americana Escape and then the Eating Choke. So I'm showing how I think it's important. And we talked about the difference between what's a white belt and a blue belt. And remember I told you white belt, you're learning all the techniques individually.
Mm-hmm.
Once you get the blue belt, you're kind of learning how to actually use these moves and put them together in series and sequence.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have been following along, the paintbrush, the Americana, the figure four arm lock, whatever you call it at your academy, right? We worked on the escape of being able to actually push in the armpit and bridge and roll. Make sure you trap that foot on the far side. All right. You put your hand in the armpit, you bridge, you roll, and you suck the elbow in. That was escaping the submission. So I was mounted, and the match is almost over. He has me in a submission. So I'm going to use the escape. Now, once I get into his guard, it's out of front pan into the fire because he still can finish that submission right inside the guard if I don't suck that elbow back in. So while I'm actually bridging and rolling, I need to be making sure I suck that elbow in. And then once I get to this position, it's time to pass the guard. We know there's no escapes there. I'm sorry, no attacks there. But if you remember, and if you were watching when we talked about what the eating choke was, the eating choke was just a hidden hand choke. That was the one where we have the 4 fingers inside each one of the lapels. We slide down and then we push. And we said that can also be used as a guard pass because it'll make the person uncomfortable. On the lower level, you may get somebody to tap from it if you do it right. Or if you're powerful and strong enough, you can get somebody to tap from the eating choke. But the objective is to get him to open his guard. So when I jump up and I turn, I don't have to worry about the arm bar because I've turned. You watch the way I manipulate his hips through that turn. All right. And I pushed down for the eating choke. It opened up his guard and allowed me to be able to pass. So it's just taking 2 of the previous moves that we worked on before or that was demonstrated in some of our previous episodes and showing how these things can be put together. Escaping from a bad position. The match is almost over. I'm escaping. I'm extending the life of the match. So by being able to use that escape and getting inside of his guard, now I'm immediately focused on passing the guard. Notice how these 2 moves that when I did them back to back. You know, even though I was explaining them, it was back to back. I don't want to get in the guard, settle in the guard, and give him an opportunity to start figuring out how he's going to be able to try to sweep or attack or manipulate my posture and my base. That's what happens. Okay, I'm out of the arm block. Cool. Now how do I pass this guard? I want this to go into a nice big flow sequence. That way he doesn't get an opportunity to be able to prepare. One thing we have to understand as practitioners is if I give somebody an opportunity to set each time, then I'm going to have to deal with whatever it is that they are, whatever kind of offense or that they're trying to mount. I don't want to give them that opportunity. So when I get out of one position before he can transition, because it's not just a transition for me, it's a transition for him too. He was on top of the mount. I was on bottom. Now he's on his back. Even though it's still an advantageous position for him, everything that he was thinking of doing is now flipped. Before he gets an opportunity to process in his head, okay, now I got to close my guard. Now I have to get my grips. Now I have to do A, B, C, and D. I'm already moving on to the next position. I knew where I was going to end up when I did the escape. He didn't know I was going to escape, so he's not prepared to be able to make that transition the same way that I am. So I did these 2 moves back to back without giving my opponent an opportunity to be able to set and defend. And I think that these 2 pair very well if you end up in this situation. It was the Americana or the paintbrush escape, and then moving on to the inside the guard, immediately advancing to the eating choke to be able to pass. My perspective is I think it'll work really well, and it will not give your opponent an opportunity to be able to mount an offense.
Man, I've never seen that before, doing an Americana from your back and somebody's in your guard. I've never seen that before, so that's pretty
cool. You can do it, but what has to happen for it to work is the person will have to actually push down and pin your arm in this position. So when they're grabbing, they have to pin your arm down and control. So as they're doing the move, they need to pin the arm down into their chest or their sternum or their stomach. So and then push, and you still can finish it there. But the reason it doesn't work when people go for it is they don't pin the arm down. They just go for the move, and then the elbow goes up in the air, and the person is able to turn their body and their shoulder to alleviate the pressure. But once they're there, as long as you take the hand that's grabbing the wrist, and then this hand here, and you use these things to be able to push down into your body, then you're able to do it. It doesn't have a high success rate, and I'll always be very honest with you guys and say some things are going to work better at the lower level, right? So some things are going to work better at the lower level because as you train and you've been exposed to these things, you have either a lot more abilities to be able to escape, even if you've never been put into it before. Your knowledge that you have, you understand principles more. the principles of how to escape things more. And then just naturally, after having had your shoulder crank, then having your neck squeeze 1,000 times, people cranking on your ankle, you're going to be a little bit more tougher. Your body's going to be a little bit more durable and used to deal with some level of discomfort that you might have not been able to deal with early on in your training. Your body wasn't as conditioned. So it's not saying it's not effective, but sometimes our body starts to adapt to those things a little bit more. And, I've seen people, I put people in straight ankle locks before, and I know I've had it on. And I'm squeezing like crazy. And a person just happened to be flexible or conditioned, and they're not tapping. But I went for somebody else straight ankle lock, and they tapping in seconds. So, this works better at the lower level. White belt, blue belt level, you definitely catch somebody. Harder to catch somebody at the purple belt level, something like this. You can then use it, though, just so you know, even at any level, if a person doesn't tap from it, I could always use it as a sweep. I always get a response from them, no matter what. I'll get a good response and enough to use it as a sweep.
All right. Well, that's it for this show. We're not going to be on next week. Zeke is traveling, right?
I would be in the frozen tundra. Coming back. I'm coming back on that day. I never get my round trip ticket when I go back. I get one-way tickets because when I'm there, I don't know if I'm going to have to stay a little bit longer. And I don't want to stay
for Christmas
and all this other type of nonsense. Not this time. I got a round trip ticket. I got a time I'm landing, and I have a time that I'm leaving. It's already booked and set in stone. So, yeah, I will be coming back on Sunday to hopefully still 75-degree weather and getting out of that nonsense that y'all dealing with down there. So, I miss y'all next week, but be back at it right after that for sure.
All right. So we're not going to see you guys next week. So have a Merry Christmas, and we'll talk to you right before the New Year.
Right. Have a Merry Christmas. We'll talk to you before the New Year. God bless.
All right, everyone. Stay safe. Stay strong. We'll holler at you in 2 weeks, and I will end our stream.